like any other part of a business, whether it's sales or marketing or project management or whatever, finance, everyone is looking at data to decide what that strategy looks like. So why is diversity any different? Shouldn't be.
My name is Katharina, and I'm the Community and Event Manager at eCulture, a company that is on a mission to shape the world of unbiased hiring. Welcome to the Oops, I'm Biased podcast. On today's episode of the Oops, I'm Biased podcast, I have the honor of welcoming Dan Cohen from Mixxyl. We are speaking about D&I data and analytics today. This is a huge topic that gets a lot of attention because I think recruiters always need a bit of sort of hard facts to make a business case for D&I and making recruitment more objective, more inclusive, and do a lot of that change management in their organization. We're talking about that specific topic today. So I'm asking Dan all of the hard questions with Mixxyl. He is working on providing D&I data and analytics to companies. He's based in the UK, but branching out. I really hope that you enjoy this episode and get a lot of learnings from it. I sure did. We cover, well, on the one hand, how Dan got into recruitment and then also now into D&I analytics for recruiters and for businesses at large. We're talking about unbiased, inclusive, objective recruitment. What does it mean? Talking about what data can be measured. Why measuring D&I data is so important for businesses, but also for recruitment teams and for recruiters individually. Keywords are here, sort of hiring manager, stakeholder management. I think it's super important for everyone. And then in the end, we're also talking a little bit about best practices and what you can do to get started on your journey towards making your recruitment process more D&I focused. So without further ado, here is my conversation with Dan Cohen. I really hope you enjoy this episode. All right. Welcome, everyone, to the Oops, I'm Biased podcast. My name is Katharina. I'm the host. Today, I have the honor of welcoming Dan on the podcast. It's super great to have you today, Dan.
Hi, Katharina. Thank you so much for the invite. Lovely to be here.
Yeah, so we got chatting on LinkedIn and I found you there since I'm always a bit on the hunt for experts in D&I and recruitment and saw that you guys do a lot about D&I data and analytics. I know this is a huge topic that receives a lot of attention, but there's also a lot of questions that we receive quite a lot around what data can you even measure, what's important to measure, how do I approach that, and how can I make data-driven decisions in recruitment? So I was very excited to hear you say yes to the opportunity, and hopefully we can together uncover a few of those uncertainties and see that we can give some answers to the most pressing questions that recruiters may have. But before we get into the nitty-gritty, I would love for you to give an introduction to our audience of who you are and what you do and how you connect to D&I recruitment.
Sure. Thank you so much. So I'm Dan, the co-founder of Mixxyl. I founded this company with my business partner, a guy called Stuart Morgan. Both of us have got quite a heavy background in recruitment and recruitment tech, HR tech. I started my recruitment journey actually when I was a kid in kind of the mid-90s. Working on summers and Easters with my auntie who was in recruitment. I went into recruitment after college and was in recruitment tech from about 2005 at a company called Broadbean Technology, which I'm sure a lot of people know, and was kind of there up until 2011-12 when I had a stint at Bullhorn. And then I was actually on the corporate side for about 8 years at a company called Grubhub. And this was a food tech business similar to kind of Just Eat and Deliveroo that we have here. And I spent about 8 years there kind of building out diverse teams in London and in New York and Philadelphia, Chicago, LA. And we had quite a kind of forward-thinking CEO who understood that a more diverse team is definitely better. More productivity, more profitability, the ability to win new markets. So I've kind of been exposed to that side. And actually at my time at Bullhorn is where I met Stuart many years ago, and we kind of reconnected, and both very much have a passion for this, because we know that, the majority of businesses out there are still very much underrepresented, and we wanted to try and help build a tech solution, which is obviously a kind of automated data solution, which is what we do, to try and provide data and insights for recruiters to help plug some of that client demand, and take a more kind of objective data-led approach to building out strategy to kind of help place more diverse individuals. So we hard launched in August last year, spent the first kind of 8-9 months just planning, building, listening, learning, still very much learning today. It's a topic that kind of seems to get bigger every day, and every day we're kind of learning new things, which is great. And as we are today, we've got about 15 clients on board, which is brilliant, really kind of forward-thinking recruitment firms that understand that, leveraging this type of data is kind of the key to helping their clients and build with their clients a more strategic approach, as opposed to kind of being a short-term partner. We're looking for them to be a long-term supplier, and work together just to be more inclusive for those clients, and give more opportunity to underrepresented groups.
Yeah, that is very close to our mission. So I'm very happy to be able to talk to you today from sort of a peer-to-peer conversation on what we're trying to achieve. Before I jump into my first question, I also wanted to ask you, D&I is obviously a growing topic. Lots of people are talking about it. Lots of people are in the industry, and also on the corporate side are now really seeing the importance of it and the business impact it can have. There is also maybe a bit of a risk factor, since D&I sometimes, when budgets are being cut or there's sort of a bit of a shift in the focus, D&I might be the first one to go. How do you view this in sort of the importance versus it being quite a sensitive one to be cut from the priority list?
Yeah, it is really a sensitive topic, and there's a ton of kind of social and political angles that follow D&I. We see a lot of stuff in the media every day. We see a lot of drastic actions being taken in the States that are kind of very much leading on this, kind of post George Floyd, and budgets kind of are being cut, and it was almost like a rush to, in the last kind of 3 or 4 years, really put D&I front and center, and kind of as the ebb and flow of those kind of social political conversations change almost on a daily or weekly basis, people are kind of adjusting their budgets accordingly, which we obviously think is a very bad idea. It's absolutely proven that a more diverse team is better for your business, and that is why you see every kind of top financial services firm, every top tech company, all the banks, the law firms, who really do try and kind of build out a diverse team, not only because they've kind of got more of an international client base, but because they know that a mix of people are going to create more and be more productive than 50 kind of white guys maybe that look like me sat in a room together. And I don't think it kind of helps where you've got very influential figures like Elon Musk tweeting that D&I is dead and this kind of stuff, which is just not true. And especially not true when, between Tesla, Starlink and his other companies, that he's got really quite a diverse mix actually that people are working for him. So, but we understand that, this topic is quite reactive for some of those big decision makers, but it's something that needs investment into a company. It does fall down the priority list, rightly as you said, and I think even we also see that kind of in recruitment as well. You and I were talking before we started recording this about how some of the recruitment firms across the UK and the Netherlands and Europe will kind of dip their toe into the D&I waters and then kind of pull it out when, things get tough. They start kind of cutting back on those budgets, which isn't really the right thing to do, because this is really kind of a key differentiator. And what makes it so key is that, the majority of businesses out there, as I said, are always looking to kind of increase representation in their workforce. And they need partners to do it, and they need their recruitment suppliers, whether it's normal recruitment, whether it's RPO or MSP. They need help, and certainly here in the UK, you've got about of all of the placements that kind of happen year in, year out, 50% are made by recruiters. So you're talking about millions of people getting hired every year, and these recruiters need to kind of take the steps to create those opportunities for those underrepresented groups, and hopefully get them placed into these businesses. So it's a tough topic, right? And as I say, it changes it almost every day at the moment. And that's why I want to sort of keep on top of it with some of this kind of data and insights that we're able to provide as well.
Yeah. Really nice to get your take on it, and to see as well that the UK market's very similar to what we experience here in the Netherlands too. What then is sort of your take on unbiased, inclusive, objective recruitment? With this podcast, we focus on all three, and then I always ask the guests, so which one resonates the most? Is it unbiased? Is it inclusive? Is it objective recruitment that calls you out the most? And what does it mean then to you?
Yeah, I think we've only got about 20 minutes left, so it's a really wide, big topic, this, right? I was actually at an event yesterday down in Southampton with the Gasker team, and kind of talking about overall what inclusion looks like. And inclusion is kind of the roll-up of so many different D&I kind of topics and items and agenda, from understanding what your hiring processes are, understanding where the gaps are in your business, and it's such a big kind of roll up to that word of having kind of that perfect level of inclusion. But I guess if you're going to try and split this out a bit more, I guess starting with kind of unbiased recruitment, this is kind of making decisions without any sort of partiality or prejudice, to try and avoid any form of discrimination, obviously based on factors such as race, gender, age, ethnicity, etc., or any other protected characteristic. And the focus really is kind of ensuring that you're understanding what the candidate's qualifications are, and the ability to ultimately perform the job. I think when you look at, or you try and kind of look at inclusive recruitment on its own versus inclusion, it's more about actively seeking out and welcoming candidates from diverse backgrounds and underrepresented groups. And this can be things like understanding or ensuring that maybe the job postings that you're putting out there use inclusive language, that you are always kind of considering a diverse pool of candidates, and understanding that there are a ton of talent pools out there that are ultimately untapped. So you're trying to uncover these kind of, diverse gems, if you will, that everyone else seems to kind of be ignoring. And then ensuring that you're providing an equal opportunity to every applicant that comes through. And with regards to being objective, this is, for us, probably one of the most important things. And this is just for us personally. It's definitely not more or less important than the other two, but, ensuring that you're kind of taking an objective view on recruitment. This means that, the hiring decisions are based on kind of clear and measurable criteria for the job requirement. And this could be, standard methods for evaluating candidates, such as, structured interviews, kind of doing skills assessments, performance evaluations. That stuff can also include kind of relevant experience, education, skills, etc. So, and I think that's probably our favorite one, simply because obviously we are a data business, and we want people to make decisions based on the data they've got versus that kind of subjective opinion and guesswork. And that ultimately then overflows, I think, also to the client side, whereby we often kind of see that a number of clients don't maybe have the right kind of volume or amount of data to actually drive their decisions forward properly. And you're kind of taking a slither of data and making a decision based on maybe 20% of your applicant base or workforce. And that's what we want to do. We want to sort of provide them with a much more kind of richer, consistent, real-time data set that ultimately starts to take the elephant out of the room. Because, as we know, D&I topic and conversation can be quite awkward and difficult sometimes. And like any other part of a business, whether it's sales or marketing or project management or whatever, finance, everyone is looking at data to decide what that strategy looks like. So why is diversity any different? Shouldn't be. And to your point before, it does sort of tend to fall down the priority list in business decisions. And why is this? It's because maybe there isn't enough kind of data to back up what the investment looks like for certain initiatives and what that ROI looks like. And, those are kind of some of the tools that we're providing at the moment to really kind of try and underpin that D&I strategy from end to end, which, as we know, can take kind of, 2, 3, 5 years to properly implement and kind of get to a stage of parity. So, a lot in that question, but yeah,
a lot. But thank you for laying it out so clearly as well. I think yes, objective recruitment's definitely a topic of conversation that we should go into much more than the other two. I think the way that we here at Equalture do this is providing data on candidates' cognitive abilities. So we let them fill out an assessment and then tell the company by the way of report exactly what is the potential of this candidate and where can they develop themselves as well too. That is obviously very different to what you guys are doing. So I'd want to step a few steps back and ask you what D&I data is, and then also what can be measured, because I assume there are some sticky situations on what you can measure and what you can't.
Yeah, that's a really good question. So a lot of kind of what you can and can't measure does come down to locality and what the kind of rules are around GDPR, etc. Certainly here in the UK and the US, what we're doing is we are trying to ensure that we're providing recruiters with a level of automated D&I data that we are extrapolating from CRMs and ATSs. So we're looking at candidate records. We're uploading some of these records into our machine learning tech. Everything kind of is anonymous and in aggregate, but we're providing back a ton of data and insight around key characteristics and demographics. So that's things like we can kind of start to automate things like age, gender, ethnicity, ethnic group. We're working on socioeconomic status, but we can kind of also look at key demographics such as skills, seniority, location, career progression. And so what we kind of end up with is basically a bit of a sandbox data suite where you can measure kind of key characteristics or demographics, but you can also start to create a ton of intersectional reports as well, which is, quite a word that always kind of obviously pops up with D&I, because rarely does anyone kind of fall into just one box, right? There are different characteristics to all of us. We're all human. We've all got different things. And so what we're doing is we're creating some of the automated tools to read certain characteristics. There are some that, our tech and our data can't read. Things around, let's say, something like neurodiversity, sexual orientation, religion. So what we're doing on that side is creating a set of automated survey tools that kind of are able to follow some of that recruitment process and the hiring workflow. And we want to try and create a bit more of a kind of content-rich survey experience for people. So, whether you use MailChimp at the moment or SurveyMonkey, it's a list of questions. We've seen recruiters say, "Hey, we need your help. Please answer these questions for us." And they're asking quite personal things, right? Like, example, how do people identify? What's your marital status? All these kind of protected characteristics. And obviously, we want people to answer those questions, but in order to get the best response, we've got to create an environment of safety and trust. And that's why we are kind of adding a lot more content-rich ideas into these surveys that, it'd be perfect if a recruitment firm of, I don't know, let's say 200 people or so were kind of using this, and the CEO was to drop in, you can kind of like drop in like a YouTube video and other kind of, content-rich pieces that starts to communicate and tells people the message and why this is important to them and what it means, and the data is safe and it's secure and it's not going to be used or sold or anything else. And it's important to get that message across to candidates to understand that there's not going to be any prejudice in that hiring process, and people are going to take an objective view on things, and ultimately to get the message across that for the companies that they're hiring for, is that they're underrepresented probably across most demographics. So how do we kind of ensure that we are communicating that across properly to the candidate? And as I say, creating that kind of safe, trust environment for them to self-identify and kind of start to answer the questions. And then we're looking at that data. So then we can take the automated data, the survey-led data, and kind of create hundreds, if not thousands, I guess, of customizable reports, and try and kind of pinpoint what those actionable insights then need to be from the data they've got. And we want recruiters to take a look at this, because this is stuff that is a key differentiator for them. And, as we kind of say to quite a few of the businesses that we talk to, how many times do you think you're stood in front of a hiring manager and you're talking about how great your agency is, and we've got all these amazing candidates, and this is our EVP, and our consultants are great, this kind of stuff. But actually, the language of the hiring managers now is data. And when those D&I conversations arise, it's about how can we kind of leverage that data to, get into the room to have those conversations, access new PSLs, boost new business revenue, increase client retention. So, this data can kind of be used to do client reviews or QBRs and kind of show your work and literally prove what you've been doing in providing them diverse candidates, so that obviously, they continue with that business. And that goes back to my point before about being a long-term strategic partner versus a kind of, shot in the dark kind of short-term supplier who places one person, then leaves and goes. Like, that's not the way to kind of scale the business up, right? You need those longer-term relationships. And to kind of form that level of trust from the hiring managers that, DC recruitment or Katharina recruitment can kind of really help us to kind of reach those diversity goals. So that's kind of what our idea of utopia is kind of all recruitment agencies using a form of objective data to actually do that.
Yeah, you already answered my follow-up question, because I was going to say,
okay.
a lot of conversations that we have on this podcast with recruiters is about how do you get that stakeholder management right with your hiring managers? How do you make sure that you have them on board with the change management that you're trying to achieve around implementing more inclusive hiring practices, in implementing a tool, whether that's scorecards for your interviews or what have you. I think there's a lot of conversations there and a lot of uncertainty for recruiters to say, well, all of the responsibilities pushed towards us to just, well, then make us more diverse. Then it's on you to if that's a goal, then you go figure it out. I think data can be such an important, but also such a valuable tool in showing that value and showing, well, we can be a trusted partner in this, and we can work with hiring managers in a more strategic and a more effective way if we can actually show this is where we're at, this is what we're trying to achieve based on data, which, as you say, that's the language of hiring managers. Whether they're in marketing or in sales or in product or wherever, they always want to see what do the numbers say. So I think that's a very strong point to not only, well, yes, it's wonderful if your company can afford a tool to do that for you, but also to sort of break it down into, okay, what are the metrics we're looking at in terms of data? What might be our benchmarks that we're working with, and present that as a business case to the hiring manager if and when needed.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. And, it's about, like, Stu and I think, we spent a while trying to kind of understand what the value prop was with this business. And it comes obviously down to, yes, having a data-led approach to boost business and stuff, but also, it's a key part of differentiation. And having been a recruiter, having been a hiring manager on the other side for a number of years, for us and for me, this is certainly a passion of ours to kind of ensure that we are increasing representation in the workplace. But from an agency owner point of view, we honestly can't think of a better angle for businesses to kind of look to and adopt right now than taking a more kind of D&I led approach. And those companies that we do work with, they're absolutely flying, and they're doing really, really well because they're offering something that none of their competitors are. And when it kind of comes to understanding what your strategy for the next 3, 6, 9, 12 months is as a recruitment firm, like diversity, your business are people. Like, that is what you do. You place people. So to kind of ignore the demographic side of that, or try, ignore the fact that you are wholly underrepresented with the candidates that you've got across your different talent pools, it just doesn't really kind of make much sense to us why people don't look at this stuff, and it's not just Mixxyl, right? There's some other brilliant tools out there like Diversity and others that kind of will be able to provide these kind of data sets to really kind of pivot and change that strategy. And we have so many great conversations with businesses that are changing the way that their teams kind of sell their services, educating them around D&I, bringing in brilliant coaches like Jenny Child and Joe Major to educate their teams on what diversity and recruitment actually is and what it means. And it's great to kind of get people in there and coaches and mentors in there, but also what are you doing in the back end? What's happening in the guts of the business to make sure that what you're doing in practice means that you are, like we touched on at the beginning, bringing in kind of new ideas, bringing in new initiatives to increase the diversity of the talent pools to then meet that client demand. And as I say, where companies are doing that, they're seeing a ton of success because it's a massive gap from the client side. And that's kind of what we want to just keep doing here in the UK, in Holland, so in the Netherlands, across Europe, the US. We've got clients in Australia already, in New Zealand, in the States, and we want to kind of keep promoting this message that this is the right way to approach D&I and recruitment, and have a bit of faith and trust, I guess, in the new technologies out there and the new tools that are available.
Yeah, and it makes it
see them make a difference to the bottom line.
Yeah, it makes it so much more tangible, especially for those people who are a bit on the fence on saying, well, D&I get why, but how? If it's all so fuzzy and we don't really know what we're talking about, it makes it so much more. It makes it so much easier to really drive that mission forward internally for companies and for recruiters working that field. Now, I think I started off this episode saying there's quite a lot of uncertainties for recruiters around D&I data and analytics. I think you've definitely changed my mind in terms of how easy and accessible it can be. I think anyone listening in who has quite a lot of doubts about it, I think can always come to you or to your co-founder as well to talk a little bit about, okay, what data should I measure? Where should I start? Do you have any tips right now that you could share where you think, recruiters could benefit from this? Sort of, where could they start if they look at all of the data that you now mentioned that they could measure? Where's the starting point, or what can they do tomorrow already?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think there's from a recruiter standpoint, right? Most recruitment businesses have got a CRM, and they've got hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of kind of candidates in there. But as always, the problem is kind of identifying what that candidate base looks like with regards to kind of those demographics. So what we're doing at Mixxyl is kind of saying, look, that is the starting point, right, where we build those integrations. And we can upload that data, and we do this for free. It's kind of part of the free trial. And once we've got the findings together, we're able to kind of look at some of the key trends, I guess, that are kind of happening within that candidate base. And also where we start to put some of those reports together to present back to a prospect. It's really interesting because once you kind of get that live data uploaded, there's always a ton of stories, and there's a few shocks in there as well. And, you know, because company owners might think, we're putting some process into place to kind of be a bit more representative. But actually, when we upload the data, they can see that there's a ton of gaps. So this is available for kind of every recruitment firm out there. We can integrate with Bullhorn and Salesforce and Mercury, Job Adder, Vincherry, building more kind of every week. And that's kind of what we want companies to do, is just kind of, you know, take a look under the hood, right? Take a look under the bonnet, and see what your current position is, see where you are. And then once we've kind of done that as that initial pulse check, if you like, we can then start to identify maybe what some of those key initiatives might look like. You know, whether it's kind of candidate sourcing strategies or understanding kind of areas of bias, perhaps. There's so many angles to it that we really just kind of like to take a bit more of a consultative approach for businesses, get the data uploaded, and then, you know, find a ton of kind of findings and signals from that data, and tell them kind of where they are. And usually most businesses are kind of shocked because they think that maybe they're here in the journey, but actually they're a bit further back. So that's what we like to do, or try and kind of want to do. And as I said, that's available for anyone who's interested. So yeah, that's the starting point.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much for giving us a bit of an insight into what you guys do as well. And anyone who's listening and interested, I'm sure that you won't mind if they reach out to you on LinkedIn or reach out over email.
Absolutely, please do.
We'll include the links as well there. If I can quickly summarize what you just said, sort of take that initial pulse check or temperature check, see where you are with your status quo, and then from that initial report that you're getting, or the initial results that you're getting, start to define and prioritize your initiatives. Where is the need for data to inform your strategy the most? I think that's a wonderful way to sort of a two-step process. But yeah, thank you so much, Dan, for your time and for your expertise. I really enjoyed hearing all about your perspectives on D&I data, about what Mixxyl does, and also talk a little bit about what the industry is, where the industry is going with D&I.
Look, thank you so much for having me on. I love what Equalture are doing, and you know, we'll certainly keep in touch and keep fighting the good fight for true inclusion for all businesses is what I want to get to. But thank you for having me on.
I'm sure we will. And to everyone who listened to today, thank you so much for tuning in again. I'll include all of the links to Dan and Mixxyl in the show notes, so you know where to find them. Please reach out to them. These guys are amazing at what they're doing. And I really hope to see you, and hope that you tune in to the next one in about 2 weeks' time. And wishing you all a wonderful day, and goodbye.